The views and opinions heard on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the host.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
My breathing had stopped for so long that my heart actually ended up stopping.
You saw what I did. You said that I was going to die.
And then I remember being gone. I wasn't there anymore.
I sort of lifted up about 6 feet above my body.
A pinprick of light appeared and came rushing toward me faster than the speed of light.
And then this light, all of a sudden it was all completely around me.
He says, I am God. Yes, I am real.
The main message was loving yourself and loving others.
It was clearly shown to me.
It was really hard to put into words. It felt like I had been there before. It was just this very personal, impersonal, unconditional love.
Welcome to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I am your host, Lamont Gates, bringing you once again the world of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, on this broadcast of near-death experience accounts, as we continue in the series, my guest found peace, bliss, joy, and love in her experience, but found the opposite upon her return. Let's get it started. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me via Skype all the way in South Africa is near-death experiencer Tracy Du Randt. Tracy, welcome to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
Thanks for having me, Lamont.
Yes, no problem at all. Now, Tracy, I saw your account on a near-death experience group site and noticed you, like many others, had a information-filled experience. However, I also noticed mainly that your post near-death experience story, however, wasn't quite as positive as many of the other accounts we hear about. But before we even get into that, let's go backwards. Let's talk a bit about where you may have learned about spirituality, religion, God, the afterlife via your childhood.
Okay, how open-minded are you?
To host a show like this, I would say extremely.
Okay, I'll explain this because most people think that I'm insane, and no, I haven't gone for regression. So let's start from the beginning. I grew up in a family where it was going to church every Sunday, blah, blah, blah. But I'll explain to you why I asked you, how open-minded are you? Okay, so people always ask me, did you drink the Kool-Aid of something, or did you get high, or how do you know this stuff? So let me explain the beginning. I remember 4 lifetimes, and the theme of the lifetime was love. So I'll skip the first 2 and then I get to the third one, of which I was a very successful man, and my wife was incredibly emotionally mature than I was, and I ended up killing her. And then I got into jail and I committed suicide. So long story short, went to consciousness, and consciousness looks in very different ways to different people. So you've got families, soul families, etc. Now, one of my there aren't really forms in that area. So I had my feet in the water, and one of my best friends, if you could call it that in inverted commas, I would equate to an American Indian, long dark hair, and we had our feet in a river, but it's not a river, it's a rainbow. And there isn't gender over there. There's not a he or a she. So, but for the sake of this, I'll say it's a he. He said, listen, you've sucked at trying to learn love. You suck at it. So why are you going to go back? So I said, because I want to get this right. I want to learn what love is. So he said, okay, well, go do what you've got to do. So I remember from conception, at the point of conception, as it hit, I remembered, oh, heck, I forgot what this feels like. And it's not fun. So I grew up I remember trying to calm my mother down because she had huge anxiety and panic attacks during the pregnancy, and I was the third child. They didn't have food. They only had 2 children. So there was poverty, there was violence, there was sexual molestation, etc. So I remember apologizing that I was being born, but nonetheless, I was born, and I learned spirituality. Read the Bible. So I read it, and as a child, I thought, okay, so it's true. So that's the Kool-Aid that's being given to me. So everything that's in the Bible is the truth. So I went to Sunday school and I said, okay, Jesus, apparently you make magic happen. And I need you to solve the things that are going on at home because it's trauma. So can you please do ... And he never did it. So at the age of 9, I made a decision that I would go through hell on earth until I was 18, and then I would never return home again, because that was just how I grew up. So it was really funny. I studied political science because I wanted to become the president of South Africa, which is quite ironic. And then I went abroad, and for about 20 years, I built a number of companies. So before I carry on, that's how I learned spirituality. But I can hear God. I've always heard God. But I didn't want to associate God with form, meaning man or woman, because people for me always hurt me. It was never something spiritual. And whenever I asked why, they would say, don't ask why. The Bible says, don't ask why, just accept it as it is. So that's how I learned spirituality, Lamont.
Got it. Now, when you say you recalled these past lives, were you a child at the time?
Well, I suppose so. It started at about 4, but I remember being in the womb, and I read a lot because of the trauma in our home. I would go into space. So I'd start to talk to God. I knew that there was a higher power, and I knew that that I was always being protected, irrelevant of what was happening. So when you're in a trauma situation, you disengage, you literally leave your body. So whatever is happening to your body, you detach. And when they finish, then you come towards it. So I read a lot, but there was nothing in those days in the 70s around reincarnation. Well, not in South Africa. I mean, with the apartheid era, etc. But it came to me in dreams. And there was a lot of spiritual energy, but very toxic, in the house that we'd moved into. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask is because there is research on reincarnation that appears to show that children tend to have a strong ability to recall past lives, much greater than adults. So you at age 4 recalling these things actually aligns with that research. Now, let's go back to when you say you were in the womb. Talk to us a bit more about this.
Yeah, so I could feel my mother's anxiety. So I would put my hand towards her belly. I could also hear the shouting and the screaming of my father outside. So when they say that everything is energy, it truly is. You can feel it. And as you grow, it affects your nervous system. So I never slept. So from a baby, they couldn't get me to sleep at night. I couldn't. So I've been an insomniac, and now I'm in my 40s, and it's still the same thing.
I know there is a past life regressionist by the name of Dr. Michael Newton, who has written several books on some of the things you're describing right now as it pertains to some of these studies. He has recorded several accounts concerning souls, for example, entering the womb and when they entered and their ability to leave the womb and so on and so forth. But let's move into your near-death experience. How old were you at the time when you had one?
I was 39 years old. So I have to explain what had happened because it fits in. In 2014, when I say I hear God or infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call, in 2014, I was warned that I was going to meet my husband, whatever that meant. So I thought, okay, well, whatever, and continued. And I was running 4 businesses simultaneously, so 17-hour days, 7 days a week, and met him in March, and it was quite a hectic year. So in November of 2015, I was warned that there were going to be storms, plural. And I thought, okay, I can handle this. So I was with a client and I asked my fiance, we ended up getting engaged. Could he please go away with his sons? I just needed a break from the year because it had been quite hectic. So I was driving back from a client and it was raining and storming, and all I kept hearing this gentle voice saying to me, Trace, don't focus on the rain, focus on the eye of the storm. And I got home and that electricity hit out and I thought, okay, strike 1, I can handle. Then on strike 2, the 30th, my fiance WhatsApped me, great, to say, listen, I'm really apologetic, but I slept with somebody. So I thought, okay, control, delete, strike 2. I can handle that. And then on the 12th of January, 2016, I had 3 seizures and I died on the first seizure. So there were 3. It was 5 a.m., 7 a.m., and 9 a.m. So what then happened was luckily I had a few people that were in my home at the time because I was also working from home. So what happened was I was above my body and I could see that they were panicking and seeing how they could resuscitate. But immediately, it was instantaneously. They timed it at 56 seconds. Lamont, it was not 56 seconds, not at all. So I didn't go through a tunnel. I didn't see a white light. Immediately, I was engulfed in what I would say, I don't know, in human terms, it would probably come down to clouds all around you, but it wasn't. It's complete consciousness, connectedness. Everything is connected, everything. And not just on this planet. It really is not just on this planet. So it's animals, it is plants, it's people, it's different universes. Everything is connected. So the first thing that happened, I call it God, for lack of a better phrase. And so the first thing that was taken in was we were walking, but I couldn't see anything, but I knew that I was talking to consciousness itself. And then we did a life review of this current life review. And the question was posed, and then we started to go back into regression. And each person that is in my life currently, and even strangers that I meet, were referred to as, do you remember that in this lifetime, this is what happened? And in this lifetime, they were there with you. So it's quite profound for me. The lessons, it's like libraries that you walk into, but it's profound. I mean, it goes back into, the dinosaur era. And we went through, and the question was, I think I must have in that year lost about 18 to 20 kilograms in 5 months based on the stress. So the question posed to me was, have you learned love yet? And the answer was, I don't know, because love is not romantic. What is love? And then the answer was, that's what you have to find out. So do you want to stay or do you want to go? Because it was I've never in my entire life felt so much peace, so much love, so much connectedness with everyone, everything. I would say, it just felt so amazing that I said, no, you feel, wow, I can handle this. Let me go back, because there was a reason I went down there and there is a path that I went down there. So let me go back. So when I came back, it was on a black screen. And there were 2 screens, and on the one screen with white words was be present, and the second one said well-being. And then literally I hit my body and I thought, oh, hell, and it hurt like hell. So the challenge that has hit me in the last 4 years is that I don't have that, yay, I love life. Life is awesome. It's so amazing. Wow. I had the actual antithesis of that. I thought, really? Oh, no, I made a mistake. This is life. So, yeah, that was my NDE.
I also saw that you posted in this near-death experience group about soul contracts and soul groups. Describe to us a bit about what these are.
Yeah. So how it was set up, because I killed my wife in my previous life, my soul contract, I met her. So I met her in my 20s and we were having coffee and I said, I killed you in a previous life. Now, this is a person I've met for the second time. She said, yes, you did. You are such a bastard. So we ended up laughing and ended up becoming friends. You have soul families and then you have soul groups. So there's groups that came down. So in order for me, I said, can I please enter a family? I chose the family on purpose in my soul contract. And I asked that the abuse would happen and that I would have trauma at the beginning of the life so that I could continue it and that I would get it over and done with. So as to almost make it up in terms of karma, but it doesn't work that way. You don't have karma. You can't get this wrong or you can't get this right. It's just when you are going through your life review, you feel the pain, but it's 1,000 times worse than what that person felt when you were saying it or doing it. So I operated, they call it in the Bible 40 years in the desert. So I was 39. So it was literally 40 years in the desert or 39 years in the desert, operating from anger and hatred. And that's where my success came from, was anger and hatred, which is the opposite of love. So the contract was set up that I had to overcome because love is not a touchy-feely feeling. Love is a decision. Love is an action. Love is patient. Love is kind. But you have to own your own responsibilities. And there's a difference between your soul. Now, what's been happening in the last 4 years is that because my soul connected with my body, it's been pushing everything up. So everything that I didn't want to deal with, every emotion that I detached from, I was told that when you would return to your body, you would be given a gift. I hesitate to call it a gift because I sometimes think it's a curse, but nonetheless. And the gift is being an empath. So you can feel other people's emotions and you can feel your own, but they're amplified. So somebody doesn't have to open their mouth and I know what they're feeling and I know how to speak to them. And even when people speak to me on the phone, they say there's something about your voice that just calms me down. And which is really funny for me because what I find is since my NDE, it's almost like an electricity that comes through me. So it goes literally through me and I ask, what is the question? Because I do a lot of leadership coaching or coaching, and then the answer will come out. And the person will say, how did you know that? How on God's green earth did you know that is bugging me? And I said, because I prayed before I entered here. And you can call it prayerfulness, mindfulness, meditation, whichever word you want to use. And then it flows through me. What I don't get is I don't get the feeling back. So that's where my NDE is a negative. I don't get the feeling that other people get. So, it's a journey. It's an adventure, and every day I learn more.
Yes, again, this appears to be a deep experience, and very rarely do we hear in many of the near-death experience accounts, at least that I've read or interviewed, about soul groups and soul contracts, pre-planned events, etc. As I said, though, Dr. Michael Newton has written several books on this topic. For example, Enemies on Earth, who pre-planned their relationships together prior to coming into the world. But shifting gears, there is another researcher by the name of David Sunfellow who described in his book two things that typically happens when an experiencer returns from an NDE. And one of them is they come back blissful. They come back wanting to light up the world the way they were lit up and with love and jovial happiness. And then he talks about those who come back. Actually, you could say three different ways people come back. He talks about those who come back wanting more press time, more book deals, more TV time to talk about their accounts. And then there are those who come back and they are just not satisfied with this world because where they came from, nothing aligns with this one. So they ultimately feel like they don't fit in. Do you feel that in your case, since you didn't come back with the joy of life, that you just don't fit in after your experience?
Not at all. So I don't speak to people about it because it doesn't fit in, which is quite a lonely experience. No, no, not at all. I call it I miss home because I don't feel that there's a purpose. I don't. And I do know there is a purpose and that I can help people because that's what I've been doing. But the answer is you have to do it on a frequency of love. You can't do it on a frequency of fear and hatred. And that is where it becomes scientific. And that's where the other side is so much more than we can ever imagine. It's not just stuff. It's not just form. You see colors, you see numbers, you see consciousness. Consciousness is immense. So you've either got to commit to the journey to get out of it because you've been in a loop and you keep repeating that loop. So the answer is you have free will when you come back. You can choose to continue that loop, but because I've got such a strong personality, an incredibly strong personality, it's 39 years of driving, ambitious, going, but from a hatred perspective. So now it's only been 4 or 5 years, and I have to learn to change. And the other thing that changed was my hearing. It's insane. I actually, since my NDE, I have to put in earplugs if I go into a grocery store because I'm hearing everybody's feelings. So it's too loud for me. Somebody took me to church and I literally started to cry because I had to have my head in my hands. It was too loud because I'm feeling their feelings. And so what's coming out of their mouth is not the truth. So I can hear what they're thinking. I know this sounds completely insane, but for somebody that is desensitized themselves in order to survive their childhood, which was complex trauma, now you are literally taking it 180 degrees and you're making them sensory. You have to learn. That was the instruction. You're going back, but all 5 senses have to be used because it has to integrate with your consciousness, which is your soul, because that is where you are connecting with consciousness. Consciousness will give you the wisdom, but you are a person. You have feelings. So you have deflected feelings for as long as it came out, but it's not all bad. I mean, so many people have benefited from my experience, where I can help them and I understand. I mean, the last thing I would have expected was an NDE. So I don't know if I'm getting a cosmic, in Afrikaans, they call it klap, which is a smack against the head in order to prepare me for the next, because he's instructed me. I got the instruction about 16 months ago. You're going to lead and you're going to lead you're going to lead quite large. But if you're going to lead, you're going to have to learn some certain skills that you don't have yet. Or you choose not to. So you can choose not to, but if you want to enjoy the rest of this journey, then embrace it. So, yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about karmic debt. Do you believe that there is or isn't such a concept?
No. You can't get it wrong, but you are going to feel it. So if you believe, for instance, that there is a hell, then you will experience when you cross over that there is a hell, but there isn't. If somebody has done something and they fear death, then they will be in a dark place where it's dark for a while. For me, because I knew that God existed, because I could always hear him, I just immediately went over there. But how karma worked in my instance, I can't speak on behalf of other people, is that anything that I did that hurt another human being, I felt it, but to the nth degree, the thousandth, to the nth degree, it hurt like heck. Anything that I did that actually helped somebody or served someone, I had this most amazing experience. There's just this ultimate love. There is no judgment. There's not a a man with a beard sitting on a chair handing out lightning bolts. It doesn't work that way. And you keep coming back and you choose what you want. You choose in your soul contract what it is that you're engaging with. I even chose my dog. I mean, to that degree, I literally chose her. I chose when she would enter, when she would leave. That's the detail to which the soul contract was set up. So there isn't karma, but you are going to feel it. It is going to come around, but it doesn't go over and over and over and over and over. You can carry it if you want to, though.
Fascinating. So is there anything you'd like to say to someone who may fear death, has questions on God, the afterlife, perhaps a life journey, etc.?
I can't advise on the path because I'm on my same journey. What I do know is when I ask for help, and there are angels that are real, there are soul guides that are real. If you are afraid of death, you cannot be born and you can't die. You're a continuum. And previous lives are not linear, meaning they're horizontal. So people seem to think that previous lives happened in the past and the future. They're not. They're happening simultaneously. So there is a version of yourself. You can call it the 1800s, but it doesn't work that way. So if you're afraid of death, ask, what is it that you're afraid of? If you've, and they say, did you drink the Kool-Aid? I was always told you're going to go to hell. And then, you better be careful because, the fire and the flames and the damnation. No, there's absolute love. God is not punishing you in any way. The fear comes from people. And that's the one thing that I was instructed to do. Whenever you feel fearful, don't look straight ahead, look up and go into nature. So I was afraid of death because it's the fear of the unknown. It's a human condition. And this is the other thing that you have to remember. You have cellular memory. You actually get indoctrinated around fear of death. So your conscious mind and your subconscious mind may not remember it, but your cellular memory will if you were rejected in any way. Fear is a frequency. It's a consciousness. So it comes at around apathy means you feel nothing. Anger is about 240. When you're at 500, that's where love comes in. So who you are surrounding yourself with is who you become. So church, yes, it's all or nothing. And I spend a lot of time researching and talking to different people. And it wasn't based on people. It was based on my fiance who said, Trace, I think you need to accept Christ. And I said, well, he did nothing for me. I asked him to help me at 7 and he did jack. So no. And what then happened to me was I actually got on my knees the one day and I said, okay, Jesus, if you exist because I've been rejecting you because you're in human form, then I accept you. Come into me. And Lamont, I kid you not, in 3 seconds flat, it was darkness that was literally coming out of me. Like, I can't explain to you the most immense anger and hatred that was coming out of me. So I got in my car and I accelerated towards my office. And I walked in and my receptionist, her eyes were as big as saucers. And she said, Tracy, you scared me. And all that was happening was that all of the fear that had been indoctrinated, because fear is contagious. I mean, COVID is a prime example. It's not COVID that is fearful. It's a feeling. Feelings can't kill you, but it stays in your cells. So if you feel lost, yes, sometimes God does not answer you. But when you say, please help me, I'm asking you, anything that is positive, please help me because I feel lost. Someone will cross your path, something will happen, and start to change your mindset. Just ask for a tiny miracle. Please, will you show me? And I started very, very small. I'd like a white feather, and then suddenly a white feather would emerge that day. And then it gets better and better. But everybody has a different personality, and I'm an extreme introvert, contrary to what we're discussing now. So people really make me tired. So the energy comes out of me. But when it comes to your path, you actually chose it. And you chose who you wanted in it to help you with that. And it's generally the people you hate the most that are the people that teach you the most, because you are here to learn and then to teach. So if you don't want to think about a path, and if you don't want to think about fear of death, then just think about the present moment. And that was what I never thought about, the present moment, until I died. I was always in the future or in the past. So I don't know if that will help anybody, but if it helps one person, then that's great.
Well, listen, I'm an introvert also, and I'll tell you right now, 10 times out of 10, I choose headphones on all day rather than dealing with people. So I get it.
There we go.
But that's extremely fascinating, and it's certainly helpful to me in understanding past lives and soul contracts and so on and so forth. Tracy, I thank you for coming on, and I think you will indeed help more people along the way, which may also be fulfilling your reason for being here.
Thank you, Lamont, and thank you for your forum. It helped me when I listened, so I wish you well, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Tracy Du Randt. And that's going to do it for me here on Real Spiritual Talk Radio. Once again, I hope all of you have been much more spiritually enlightened by these accounts as we move through this series seamlessly, so it appears. I am your host, Lamont Gates, and Real Spiritual Talk Radio is now signing off.